Nail Down. I'm Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. With me is Nick Tasso at The Inefficient 2. Taking a look at all the pitchers on tonight's 13-game MLB slate and some high-priced options to look at. There's a lot of great GPP targets. I think it's going to be actually a pretty high-scoring night for pitchers. We also have a core slate to consider, so look at some cheaper options. But kind of right off the bat, who are you looking at between Syndergaard and Bumgarner? I think those are kind of the two clear-cut number ones.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm probably going to go Syndergaard just because he's been more consistent overall. I know San Diego is a pretty poor offensive team, but I think they did score 5 runs yesterday, so they might slowly be coming around. Plus, they're all basically righties, so that's not going to bode well for Bumgarner. And you just look at Syndergaard; he's just been able to get so many strikeouts lately against the Cincinnati team, which I'm not sure. Even though they have some moments where they're pretty good, I'm not sure if they are any good.
Yeah, definitely. And you get also like Syndergaard pitching in Citi Field too as well. I mean, obviously AT&T Park's nice for Bumgarner, but Syndergaard absolutely dominated at home last year.
Yeah, I don't have my notes in front of me because we have technical issues, but I think he had like a 2.9 or something ERA inside Citi Field, so he was considerably better there.
Yeah, definitely. Jumping into the first games here, 7:07, White Sox and Blue Jays. Miguel Gonzalez versus Marcus Stroman. Not seeing a Vegas lineup yet for this one. I got to imagine that Toronto's going to be slight favorites here, but still probably a pretty high over-under. Either one of these guys intrigue you?
A little bit with Stroman. I mean, I don't think Gonzalez is on either slate anyways. He was a late call-up, so I can't really find him on either sites, but Stroman has shown pretty good signs of strikeout potential, and he's been going deep into games. And I think this heavy right-handed White Sox lineup really isn't that good against righties. They're a lot better against lefties. So I think Stroman could kind of be a nice little GPP play tonight.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And looking at this price tag, it's a little bit cheaper than some of the other names. I think you might be looking at maybe guys like Danny Salazar as far as big K upside. Stroman's got a decent strikeout rate, and obviously, as you mentioned, this White Sox team not very good. On the other side, you said Gonzalez not in the player pool. I'm not seeing him either, which is kind of weird because he's been in the league.
Yeah, and they've known about it, but whatever.
Yeah.
Same with Ramos, who's starting for Texas tonight. He's not on any either.
Yeah, and well, you got to figure I wasn't going to take Gonzalez anyway, so it doesn't matter to me. Next game here, Athletics and Tigers, Kendall Graveman versus Jordan Zimmermann. Over-under of 8. Detroit is heavy favorites there, minus 168. Zimmerman's been absolutely filthy to start the year here so far, and I think the one start that kind of put him on the map for me as far as he's going to be a great DFS play is the Kansas City start, because that is a team that doesn't strike out a ton, and he went through and just absolutely cruised through that lineup. And his price tag, 8,200 on DraftKings, is not bad at all.
Yeah, absolutely. But you kind of, for me at least, is just waiting for the other shoe to drop with Zimmermann. He's coming to the American League, and he hasn't given up a run in 3 starts. So it's kind of like Latos that you know something's going to happen. You're just not sure when. And I think the Oakland Bats, they don't have any real big names, but I think they can kind of just kill a pitcher to death, basically getting a hit here or there, and can kind of really hurt Zimmermann. And I think this is the game he finally gives up a run or two.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that happening. Obviously, you've seen these Oakland Bats kind of poke away. They don't strike out a ton. And I think you're looking really at that last start that Zimmermann had. Obviously, it's just a one-game thing. He is pitching at home. I mean, 8 strikeouts against the Royals is pretty impressive. Outside of that, I mean, he's been above 20 DraftKings points against better offenses against right-handers. You're looking at Pittsburgh and Yankees being the other two. I think, as you mentioned, I think this is a game where Zimmermann could be kind of close to average more so than anything. So I think I'm leaning more towards tournaments, but I can't argue with the price tag.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the only thing, too, is I think a lot of people gravitate towards him. They'll look at the 0 ERA, nice price tag on both sites, and they're probably going to roster him a lot in GPPs and even cash.
Yeah, definitely. On the other side here, Kendall Graveman, 5,900 on DraftKings, 5,400 on FanDuel. And obviously an underdog, but obviously at a price tag where he doesn't have to get a win. This Tigers offense hasn't been that great. And really, I mean, I think Kendall Graveman's actually been pitching pretty well. obviously not a cash game guy for me, but I think if you were to maybe load up on a bat or wanted to pair him with Syndergaard or and still work in some Coors guys, I don't hate that idea.
No, absolutely. He's probably my favorite low-owned guy of the day. You look at him; his starts have been pretty good. He's been striking out a decent amount, and the Tigers, their strikeout rate is pretty high. They just, I don't know what it is, but the last week or so, they've just been terrible. They have the second lowest WOBA in the past week, so they really all their averages have kind of dropped down considerably. And I know I talked about them a lot yesterday and how I really like them, but it's kind of turning into a trend that they're just not doing anything at the plate, and it's kind of sad, but it is what it is.
I mean, you look at those names. I mean, obviously Justin Upton, JD Martinez, more the younger-ish guys, but you still have Cabrera who's getting up in age, Kinsler, Martinez as well. So Jared Saltamaki is arguably got to be their best hitter right now. So
Yeah, I mean, you look at JD Martinez; he's still has not much power, and his average has dropped over 100 points in the past week and a half. So that's kind of an alarming thing.
yeah, definitely. I think just looking at this lineup 1 through 9, yes, it's got some big names, but I think it's one you can still attack at least right now, and I'll definitely be doing that with Graven in tournaments tonight.
Absolutely, and I wish the opposition was a little bit better with maybe someone like Mike Pelfrey going for Detroit rather than Zimmermann. But I still think Graveman kind of has a chance for a win because I think Zimmerman's going to probably regress here, give up 3 runs maybe, and I think Graveman might sneak in there and get the win.
Yeah, that's definitely a good call. It can happen. I like the Mike Pelfrey name saver there you got going on.
Yeah, Mike Pelfrey's on Detroit. For all of you guys who did not know.
Red Sox and Braves. Rick Porcello, Julio Teheran. Over under of 8. Boston strong favorites here, -140. Porcello has been pitching a lot better. I don't think he's actually pitched bad over the course of 3 games at all. I know he had a rougher start in that first outing against Toronto. But overall, I mean, it really came through one bad inning and then he settled down. And that's what he kind of has to avoid. It seems to be that one inning where he runs into some trouble. But overall, I mean, strikeouts wise, he's been very solid, 26 over 3 starts. I think the big difference has been Christian Vasquez coming back. He seems to be the one who just has a noticeable difference when he's behind the plate.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you saw yesterday, Hannigan started, so Vasquez should get the start on Monday. And you look at Porcello, and he still has like a 4.5 ERA, but he's averaging almost as many points as Zimmermann just because he has been able to strike out more batters this year. He's typically a ground ball pitcher, but he's had 7, 8, 9 in his 3 starts. So it's definitely a lot of upside here against the Braves, who at times can just do absolutely nothing at the plate.
Yeah,
And,
definitely.
and he also won't have to face the DH like he did in his first 3 starts. So he's got that going for him.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good point. You are getting a batter spot twice, maybe 3 times throughout the game. And I'm also expecting Boston's to put up points against T-Ran. So I think Porcello is actually a safe play in all formats. I don't really mind him as an SP2. DraftKings, I don't even mind if you wanted to spin down, or FanDuel if you wanted to spin down, stack Coors bats. I don't really think he's a bad option tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it still is Rick Porcello, and he could give up the long balls. But if you look at that team, the only one who kind of scares you is Freeman and maybe even, Adonis Garcia. But other than that, you have Nick Markakis, who I don't think has hit a home run since like August of last year, maybe. There's no power with him anymore. And it's just an easier lineup to kind of get through.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned Porcello's been giving up kind of the long ball at times, but Atlanta, a .105 ISO against right-handed pitching going back to last year, the lowest in the league. So I'm not really too concerned. Obviously, Turner Field's obviously a decent pitcher's park to pitch in. So I'm leaning for Porcello in all formats. I know it's kind of scary to say, but I think he's in for a pretty quality start.
Yeah, I agree with you. And on the other side, I'm staying far away from Teheran. I know he's a little bit better at Turner Field, a little bit better against righties, but the Red Sox still have a couple lefties, even if Ortiz takes the day off. So I'm just staying away from him.
Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, just because we're losing that DH, you want to see what happens. And you still think Hanley gets the nod at first base, obviously. And Although it is a defensive toss-up with those two.
He's been better. I saw him on MLB Play of the Day or something last night at like 2 a.m. So I
Yeah,
don't
he
know.
hasn't looked bad.
Yeah, I think he's better than Ortiz, but and
Yeah,
Ortiz has come out and says he never wants to play first base regularly. So, God forbid they make him play one game.
yeah, definitely. Next one here, you got Reds and Mets, where I saw Iglesias versus Noah Syndergaard. I'm excited to watch this game tonight. 6.5 over under. Mets are still very strong favorites, minus 203. Syndergaard, obviously, I think he's number one tonight, as you stated earlier in the show, and I'm definitely in agreement. Just been absolutely consistent. The strikeouts have been there. This Reds team, not that great, very subpar, and I'm actually worried about Iglesias a little bit in this matchup. I think the strikeouts could be there, but he struggles with left-handed bats at times, and this Mets team has plenty of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know when we first started talking opening day, we were all about Iglesias because his price was down, and it's still kind of down on FanDuel, but he just really hasn't performed like we know he probably could, getting all those strikeouts. He's struggled, like you said, with left-handers, and he's just struggled overall with walks, giving up runs, and it just hasn't been too well for him. It's a nice pitcher's park for him, but you're going up against Syndergaard, there's really not much chance of a win, and his price tag, you kind of sort of want the win, especially on DraftKings at his price.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned the depreciated price on FanDuel. It's still not too bad, 7,900. But you have Marcus Stroman right there. You have Ian Kennedy. You have Porcello cheaper. So I just feel like you can kind of look at those guys instead of him.
Yeah, and one of my other favorites, Gosselin on FanDuel, is really cheap too.
Oh yeah, he's coming back from the deal, right?
Yeah, and everyone just forgot about him. The DraftKings didn't because he's up there in price. But you look at his price on FanDuel, and it's like 6,500, and that's just insane for a guy who can get so many strikeouts against Tampa Bay, who strikes out basically the most.
Yeah, and that'll transition us into the next game here because that's
There you go.
So yeah, Gosselin. I mean, you're kind of cheap play on FanDuel. I don't think he's a bad play at all in tournaments, just because he can have that big 35 40 plus upside points game. And this Rays offense not great. They're heading back to Tropicana, where it's a pitcher's park. You don't expect guys like Dickerson to be going off, and same with some of those other bats. So I think he's in play. Obviously a tournament only for me, but yeah, I mean, really this Rays offense isn't that great. And I think Archer, I mean, the way he's pitching right now, it's a win's not necessarily a lock for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at Gossman, he had 3 starts in the minors. He had a nearly 40% strikeout rate. The only thing I'm concerned about is he didn't go too deep in games. I think he had 2 innings, 3 and a third, and then also I think 5 and a third. So I'm not really 100% sure how many innings he'll be able to go, but if he's striking out people, mowing them down, he might be able to go 6, maybe 7. Not sure if he's on a pitch count or not.
Yeah, that's definitely something to keep an eye on. And if he even was going to 5 or 6, I mean, this pen is awesome. So if he was going in with a lead, there's a good chance of him coming away with a win. And even if he goes at that price tag, and if he goes 6 and punches out 6 or 7 guys, I mean, the price tags, he's paying that off.
Yeah, I know it was AAA, but he struck out 9 in his last start and only 5 and a third. So he still has that strikeout ability. And his issue last season was the home runs and Tropicana Field. Outside of like Longoria and Dickerson, you really don't have to be too scared about giving the long ball up.
Yeah, no, definitely. So yeah, I definitely like that call. And Archer on the other side, a guy I'm staying away from until he fixes whatever he needs to fix, because he's been absolutely dreadful to start the year.
Yeah, I'm waiting at least 1 or 2 good starts that he puts in a row before I even think about rostering him.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, because in this matchup, Baltimore does strike out a fair amount. I think Archer does have that potential, but yeah, we just haven't seen it. And I think you should just stay away. There's far too many other better options to pay up for.
Absolutely, because I think on DraftKings at least his price is pretty high too.
Yeah, bounce back up. I know it was cheaper because it was what 8,300 when he
Yeah,
faced Boston. So they were kind of tempting you, and now he's up at a
and that
price
was
where
even too high. So
yeah. Next game here, we got Yankees and Rangers, over under of 9. It's in Global Life. Nathan Eovaldi, Cesar Ramos. Neither of these guys I want a piece of in this matchup. Eovaldi struggles with left-handers. You got Texas, who has plenty of them. Same on the other side. You got all those Yankees lefties. I'm targeting plenty of hitters in this game, so
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at Eovaldi, and it's a terrible ballpark for him, and I can't ever really get on board with him. He's just you never know what you're going to get with him. And then on the flip side, you look at Ramos, and he's not even in the player pool, so that's probably going to be a really high scoring game. And I was looking at it; he's only started, I think, 10 games in his career, and basically is only averaging 4 innings. So it's not looking good for him. And in his 3 starts in the minors this year, I think he only lasted 4 innings, basically once or something. It's just pretty bad. So
yeah, we've seen this Texas bullpen too. They've been pretty bad to start the year. I think a couple times I think we saw obviously that Baltimore game where Trumbo hit 2 homers in a row. That was essentially all off the Texas bullpen. So if they're tossing in a couple long relievers after 3 to 4 innings, these Yankees bats could be going off.
and now that I think about it too, that would probably give Eovaldi a good chance for a win though, because if they're that bad,
Yeah, that's true.
but
I just
it's
think at
risky.
the price tag, I'm still not a fan of this.
No,
Even though
I'm never is. I never are. I don't know. It's early.
Next one here, 8-10 Indians and Twins. Obviously, we've seen the Twins come off just horrible strikeout performances most of the season, and Danny Salazar comes in target field going up against Tommy Malone. Salazar's arguably got to be the cheaper spin down option, I guess you can call him, from a guy like Madison Bumgarner, a guy like Syndergaard, even though he's just really 700 less on DraftKings. But FanDuel, I think there's a decent drop down, being 9,200 compared to both those guys over 11K.
Yeah, absolutely. I hate saying this, but he probably will be my cash game play on FanDuel just because of that price difference. That 2,000 really lets you add a few extra bats into that lineup, and it allows you to do a lot more things. And like you said, that Twins team is really pathetic, bottom 5 in WOBA, and their strikeout rate is really up there. And they played a long game yesterday. What was it, 15 innings? So I think they're probably a little tired. I mean, they play every day, but when you add basically another half of a game in there, it might get to them, especially with and their bullpen's probably a little tanked too because of that. So, I mean, Salazar probably is in a good spot to get a win.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And Vegas is kind of along similar things and thinking Cleveland minus 137. I think Salazar has a chance to be one of the highest score pitchers of the night. I think he can even be tops if, kind of everything's working for him because he has that solid strikeout rate, sitting at 26% going back to 2014. And he's become a little bit more consistent. The walks have kind of dropped for him, so that's encouraging to see. Yeah, I'm with you there. I think you can definitely spin down and grab an extra elite bat or two.
No, absolutely. And Salazar's just been really, really consistent lately. And it's kind of what you want to see when you're selecting cash game guys.
Yeah, definitely. And you look at strikeouts wise, he's been above seven or more in the 3 starts this season. He's only given up 3 runs in 3 starts. So he's faced three subpar offenses, but he's going to face another one here tonight and should be able to do the same thing.
Absolutely.
So on the other side, you looking at Malone at all?
Not in the least bit. He doesn't strike out anyone, and he doesn't go deep into games, and that's exactly the opposite of what you want from a DFS starter.
Yeah, definitely. And this Royals team does have a couple more righties in the lineup than last year, so like Davis and Napoli, and obviously all those guys turn around like Lindor from switch hitting. Lindor is better from the right side.
And Brantley should be back, I think, from this game. I think he's getting called up today. That's what I read.
Oh, nice.
If I didn't read that, my apologies. But on MLB injury report, that's what they said, that he would be back called up for the 25th. I don't know if he's going to start, but that's what it said.
Oh, yeah. So, he looks like he is coming back today.
I know he's a lefty, but he's still a pretty damn good hitter.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, that Cleveland offense could be pretty solid here, especially as the weather heats up. I mean, they knocked around Green pretty well yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I think Chisenhall's back now too, so you won't be getting those lineups with guys named McQuinn in there and whatever the heck his name was yesterday. But I played him and he did well, so okay, not well, but
Yeah. But Malone, stay away guy for me. You as well.
absolutely.
This next game, obviously a stay away. 8:40 Pirates and Rockies in Coors. 11.5 over under. Um, let's just skip that bad boy and move on to Cardinals Diamondbacks at 9:40.
Are you sure? Chad Bettis has a 1.29 ERA in at Coors this year.
Yeah, very small sample size,
All
and
right. Okay.
I will take the long Coors.
His career of 6 is pretty bad.
Yeah, yeah.
All righty. I agree with you. Next game.
Cardinals Diamondbacks, Jaime Garcia versus Zach Greinke. Over under is 7.5. Essentially a pick 'em, but Arizona small favorites. Not really a fan of either pitcher here. Garcia a little too expensive for me. I think he would be actually in play just because of his ability to keep the ball on the ground if it was a smaller slate. But there's better options out there, and I think Greinke's priced way too close to those other guys like Salazar, Bumgarner, Syndergaard for me to even consider him against this Cardinals team.
Yeah, I agree with you. You look at Garcia, and he had a really good outing last time out, but you got basically an all-righty team outside of Peralta who could do some damage, and he keeps the ball on the ground, but they could still get base hits here or there, and it's Chase Field, so it's a really bad ballpark for him. And same thing with Greinke. He's pitched well outside of Chase Field, so it's kind of something I want to stay away. I need to see more data on his statistics at his new home field before I kind of want to roster him, especially at those prices.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, you look at the games he's pitched better. Add San Diego, add San Francisco. His 2 games, at home, allowed 11 earns. So I'm definitely with you there. I just think price considered, I'd rather spin down some other options or just pay up. Yeah, I mean, I think over under 7.5 is pretty close to these 2 teams. I don't think either of them are going to really pay off their price tag.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's just a tough thing. There's 13 games today, so there's a lot of options, and this is just one I want to just gloss over.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Moved on to the later games here. Royals and Angels, Ian Kennedy versus Garrett Richards. I'm not expecting a ton of offense in this game. Ian Kennedy is intriguing. I'm also not in love with his price tag, though. I think that's the big thing for me. I feel like I can kind of spin down and get equal production, but overall, Kennedy's been solid to start the year. 7 strikeouts in each of his 3 starts. This Angels offense isn't bad. You work yourself around Trout, and you're probably sitting pretty. And I think he's at a decent shot to get a win as well.
Yeah, I mean, I the only thing I don't like is just his price tag. It's really high on both sites, and you look at this Angels offense, they're really not good at all. They're like in the bottom 3 of almost every statistic that you look at, but they still have Pujols. They still have, what's his name?
Calhoun?
Trout. No, Trout.
Oh, Trout. No. Oh, what's his name?
No, seriously, I was thinking Trumbo, and Trump came to my state today, so I just forgot it. So, all right, Mike Trout. So, yeah, so they still have Mike Trout. So, I mean, it could be a bad day for Ian Kennedy, but it's still the Angels. Even if he gives up 1 or 2 runs, 3 runs, they're going to strike out a decent amount. But we keep going back to that price tag, and you look at everyone else around him, it's just there's better options.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And you go back to last year, the beginning of last season, the Angels ranked 24th in WOBA against right-handers. So I'm just staying away. And on the other side, Garrett Richards, not a guy I don't expect a ton of upside from against this Royals team. I think this is a game where there are 2 good pitchers on the hill, but they're not going to be great fantasy options.
Absolutely, because the Royals they don't allow any good fantasy production out of any starters, regardless of who they are.
Yeah, definitely. Next one here, 10-10, Astros and Mariners, Doug Fister versus Taijuan Walker. Walker really is generating some interest into me. I think more as the morning goes on here in GPPs. I know he's a little bit expensive on DraftKings, 9,000. 8,800 is still pretty pricey as well, but I don't mind him. I think he's going to be pretty low owned. He's pitching in Safeco against the Houston team that played late last night. Going to be flying out there, and their strikeout rate is, top 5 against right-handed pitching. So he could be a decent tournament option.
No, absolutely. They have immense power. You look at Rasmus, Tyler White, Correa, and Springer too, and they could just destroy him. But at the same time, they could basically go quiet for an entire game with 10 strikeouts. So that's exactly what you want to see from a GPP pitcher. You agree? I agree with you that his price tag is a little too high, but I mean, you got to take chances sometimes. And like you said, game didn't get over until 1:10 Eastern or something like that. So late night flying in, and the only thing they have going for them is that the game is like 2 hours later than they're accustomed to playing. So their hitters could be a little rested. I do probably would predict a few guys getting some days off today just because it was a late game. But I do like Walker. I'm just a little scared of how good Colby Rasmus has been like this past week. 4 home runs in 4 games, and his like WOBA is over 500. And he's just been insane, basically.
Yeah, I mean, he was absolutely crushing. And I know I watched Kimbrel come into the game, and then Rasmus take him yard. I was like, you got to be kidding me. This guy's locked and loaded right now.
Yeah, I had to stay up an extra like hour and a half. It was really terrible.
But I mean, that Astros 24% strikeout rate going back to last season against right-handed pitching. That's what puts Walker on the map, and his ability to miss bats as well.
I think if Walker can limit the damage to solo home runs, I think that his strikeouts will kind of offset it. But if he's allowing a lot of runners and say a guy comes up, hits a 3-run home run, that's kind of set you back. But if it's only 1 or 2 solo shots, I think he's going to be all right.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And Seattle, decent favorites there. I think he picks up a win against Fister on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at Fister, he's only given up a couple of runs, I think, in the last 2 starts, and he's just not the same pitcher. And it's just, I don't think this is going to be a revenge game. So I think he's going to get knocked around pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. Next one here, you got Marlins and Dodgers. Wei-Yin Chen versus Ross Stripling. 7.5 over under. Not really a big fan of either guy here. Chen, in different spots, I don't mind him. I think he's actually a decent DFS pitcher, depending on his price. But in this matchup, I'm not really touching either guy, so I don't think there's enough upside.
Yeah, I agree with you. With Chen, you look at him, and the Dodgers will probably throw in 6 righties to face him, and he's had struggles all his career with giving up home runs, and WOBA against righties isn't really good. But overall, he's a decent pitcher. It's just not something that you want in this matchup for DFS.
Yeah, definitely. On a 13-game slate, there's just far better options.
Absolutely. And then Stripling, I'm still kind of waiting to see what he kind of does before I want to throw all my chips on his table.
I was frustrated with the Atlanta start because I was on him, just given the price tag. And I know he was kind of roughed up. He did allow 6 hits and 2 walks over 3.2 innings, but it seems he has a short leash in comparison to some of the other starters, which is something to note.
It's like last year all over again with Don Mattingly. Even though he's gone, Dave Roberts is like, I'm just going to keep pulling guys early. That was so frustrating last year, by the way.
I don't know if you saw it was a Marlins game, and Don Mattingly challenged a play that was completely like you should have never challenged at all. Like the guy was on the base the entire time. And
nice.
Yeah, it was Mattingly being Mattingly still.
I don't understand how he has a job, but that's besides the point. With that roster, they should have last year they should have done so much better, but whatever.
For sure.
When you have Greinke and you have Kershaw, I remembered his name, so and I don't know, their offense, it's typically pretty good, so I don't know. Yeah. On to the next game, I guess.
Yeah. Last one of the night, Padres and Giants, 6.5 over under. San Francisco, big favorites at minus 212. Obviously, Bumgarner on the hill. You're looking at this Padres team, not good. 22nd in WOBA going back to last season against Southpaws, big 23% strikeout rates. You got like Bumgarner at home, obviously against the Padres. There is actually a decent price difference. Well, I guess it's not that big, but just 600 less or more than Syndergaard. That 600 might actually come in handy on tonight's slate.
Yeah, and you look at him, he's cheaper than Syndergaard on FanDuel, and I actually think on DraftKings he's probably going to be a really good play for GPPs because everyone's going to kind of gravitate towards Syndergaard because he's less. So I kind of like Bumgarner for GPPs. It's a really good matchup. He's done well against the Padres. He's good at AT&T Park. There's a lot of things going in his favor. And like you said, if you're going to get him at a pretty low ownership, maybe 10%, I kind of got to go with him.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. It's a pretty obvious matchup for him. On the other side, Drew Pomeranz has been really good so far to start the year. Swinging strike rate is very impressive. Um, I'm not quite sure we see the strikeout rates, here against the Giants. They don't strike out a ton. They put the ball in play. Um, I mean, price considered, I don't mind him, but overall, I think there's better options. I don't think he gets a win, which is one thing. Um, and I think, you look at, I kind of find in comparison to Adam Conley, who came in and pitched against San Francisco, who had a high strikeout rate, but faced that team and they just kind of beat you into the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the only thing he really has going for him is that he's a lefty, and most of the hitters who are good besides Posey on that team are basically lefties. But like you said, you look at Conley's start, and they're similar to the Royals, where they might not do something flashy, but they're gonna kind of just slowly destroy and deteriorate a starting pitcher.
Yeah, definitely. And in the start, I just think you fade him. But Pomeranz has actually been a quality arm to start the year, and I think he's going to be going forward. Just continues to rack up strikeouts, but not tonight, not in play for me. But I think going forward, this is a guy you need to keep kind of in your notepad and take a look at when he's on the hill.
Yeah, I mean, he's put together some really solid starts, so this matchup might not be the best for him, but going forward, like you said, it's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, definitely. So that's going to wrap it up here with the pitcher nail down. Check out dailyfantasycafe.com for all our great tools and content.